Good evening, everyone who's in Australia, New Zealand. Good morning to those in the Americas, and good afternoon to Europe and the UK. The connection. I was just making sure. Hopefully, the connection stays strong this evening. Today, I'm reading out Chapter 9 of Breathing Out Brave. I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to get straight into it. Chapter 9, Break It to Make It. Developing trust in yourself is a process. For some of us, trusting that we've made a good or right decision is difficult. We seek external confirmation from friends, family members, work colleagues, gym instructors, tarot cards, religious texts, coin flips, books, feathers on the ground. The obsession of making the right choice consumes us. Emotionally, we feel like everything will crash down around us if we make the wrong choice. Intellectually, we know this isn't so, but within our inner worlds, it can feel something like a complete demise or even death. Take the following example from my life. Developing trust in myself and my decision-making ability has been a journey through my values, self-esteem, and emotions. Breaking promises. I was brought up with the value that you do what you say you're going to do, no matter the cost or the impact on yourself. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. Tuned into me from early childhood, I expect that others around me do the same. This was important to me in my professional career, meeting critical timeframes and completing the work I promised my clients, the court, and professional colleagues. As a lawyer, I always met the deadline. As a government worker, I met timeframes, but if circumstances meant that I couldn't meet a target, I would let my colleagues involved know and would create a new target that could meet all stakeholder needs. This was me keeping my word. I would also go to painful lengths to keep my word personally. If I was sick or unwell, I would still do what I said I was going to do for friends. I would turn up over and over again. I may have been exhausted going to work or showing up to an event, but I would do it. I would also go to great lengths to fulfill promises to others that I hadn't even promised them I would do, but I promised myself that I would do it for them. I saw that they needed something, and I would surprise them by fulfilling that need. Being presented with opportunities in recent years where circumstances were so detrimental to me personally, I've been forced to reconsider breaking my promise. My sacred word. My bond. Me. 2 years ago, the following situation presented itself. Amongst other things I do, I'm a pet and house sitter, and I have been fortunate to have done this around the world. I love it. Spending time with my new furry friends in unique locations has been incredible. Making deep friendships with human owners has also been a delight. Setting up house in a pet sit is always an interesting process. Getting to know the owners in a brief Skype call, asking about the sit, the requirements and pet needs is critical for both of us to see how our relationship will go through the sit. Maintaining contact up into the house sit through sporadic emails continues the relationship building. I followed my usual process for a sit I organised last year. The owners seemed welcoming on Skype and were responsive to emails. Arriving at the house, I immediately fell in love with the cats and the home. It was, quite simply, beautiful. The luscious tropical gardens, the open-plan home and spaces was more than pleasant. It was a Central American retirement dream home. The owners, who, although somewhat introverted and preoccupied, were welcoming, and we got along well. On the day before they left, for longer-term house sits, I often spend a few days with the owners before they leave. They told me the conditions about the house sit that took me completely by surprise. They did not tell me these conditions when I spoke to them on Skype months earlier, nor did they let me know in our subsequent email conversations. The deal with most pet and house sitting gigs is that you look after the furry or feathered companion animals and the home in return for free rent and no bills through the duration of your stay. They told me that they wanted me to pay someone to look after the home if I left for more than 1 hour per day. 1 hour per day. And then they asked me to pay for the cat food. This is never a condition of any pet sit. My anxiousness and shock continued throughout the day until I brought up the topic again in the afternoon. We managed to agree that they would pay for the cat food and I would pay for a sitter if I needed to leave the house for more than 1 hour each day. I felt steamrolled. The owners, with their super reactive and somewhat understated aggression, left me feeling like I didn't have a choice but to agree with the compromise. I was already there. They were leaving the next day. What else could I do? So I did what I usually do, go along with everything, make nice conversation and have a pleasant time. The first couple of days after the owners left, I was in a state of shock. I felt like I was in a prison, a beautiful prison, but still a prison. Only being allowed to leave for 1 hour felt very restrictive, and then to organise someone else to come over if I needed a longer than an hour and pay them felt like I was paying off a guard to let me out for a few hours. I couldn't not write. The purpose of this long-term house sit was for me to have a quiet space in which to write. This was a quiet and beautiful space, but no creativity was flowing. The strangulation thoroughly wound its hands around my writing. A week passed, nothing changed. I spoke to a couple of close friends who all said I needed to leave. My internal voice was loud. I said I would do this. I committed. I can't break a commitment, I promise. I've never left a house sit before. This inner dialogue went on for days. I turned to some of my usual patterns: eat, watch Netflix, sleep, repeat. A realization slowly dawned on me. I was feeling depressed. Sunni doesn't do depressed, does she? I was not doing anything. Another thing I hate. I love being productive. I was just functioning. I didn't want to leave the prison, even for an hour, but I didn't have any meaningful physical human contact that I could talk to about my feelings in this tiny, remote, completely Spanish-speaking town. Although feeling trapped and depressed, I also felt like a privileged white woman complaining about a good thing. I shouldn't complain about being stuck in a beautiful home with 2 gorgeous cats, should I? Finally, after a week and a half, when the sticky prison-like feelings hadn't shifted and I hadn't written anything and I was truly feeling depressed, I made the decision. I must leave. I have to break my word. Anxiety was bleeding through my fingers as I wrote to the owners a long email explaining my feelings, depression, and my experience in the house so far. I knew they wouldn't be happy, and I knew they'd be stressed out about finding someone new. I didn't want to give them this stress, despite my feelings of being steamrolled and not told about the conditions prior to coming. Despite this, I never want someone else to be hurt. I never want to break my promise. I'm not allowed to break my promise. Although my initial news caused the owners anxiety and stress as expected, they found a family to move in and look after the house in 2 days. This was a huge relief for me, and it meant that I could organise with new sitters to leave earlier than I anticipated. I had given the owners a month's notice, which I felt was more than reasonable considering I wasn't being paid and the mental state that I was in. The changeover with the new sitters was smooth, easy and enjoyable. I did everything I needed to do and more to ensure the smooth transition. What was more transforming was the relief and feelings of freedom that I experienced internally. I'm allowed to look after me. I can break my word, and everything can work out well for everyone, despite me breaking my promise. We have all broken promises. If you're like me, you've felt guilty for breaking a promise. I've learned through this experience more clearly than I've done before that breaking promises will not necessarily create the catastrophe for myself and everyone else involved that I expect. It may do initially, but it can also work out exceptionally well for everyone involved. Most importantly, there are always options. Honouring my real needs, acknowledging when things are not working out for me is the real gift here. And then making a decision, letting go of the feelings of guilt and doing what's best, healthiest for me. And then finding out that doing what's best for me could also work out and even help others. The family that moved in was very grateful for the opportunity is magical. How do you develop trust in yourself? If you were a child brought up in an environment where you were told what you should think, how you should act, what you should do and not do, what career path you should choose, who to get into a relationship with, what school to choose, what to wear, who to be friends with, who not to be friends with, what sports, music or hobbies to enjoy. Developing trust in yourself and your decisions takes time and effort. All of us, to varying degrees, were brought up like this. Even if you had super encouraging caregivers, most of us absorb societal and parental expectations to some extent, even if we don't think we do. We are dependent on those around us. Human babies can't survive without caregivers. This creates an interesting entanglement as we progress throughout childhood. Depending on the type of caregiving, those entanglements may encourage trust in yourself or handing over full trust to your caregivers, educators, or God, or something on a scale in between. As a child, all my trust and decision making came from my mother almost exclusively, so it took me many years to develop trust in making decisions for myself. My first substantive psychologist helped me to develop trust in myself. My work as a lawyer and the fact that I was making decisions for my clients that greatly affected their lives brought faith in my decision making. And my breakup with my long-term partner helped me build trust and confidence within myself. Reflecting on the times I considered the most challenging and realizing they had led me to places I could not imagine at the time created trust in me. Breaking my promise 2 years ago in the above example helped me to develop a deeper trust in me. Continually tuning into my body helps me cultivate trust in me. Understanding my emotions behind me not trusting myself, how I was brought up, and my consequential fears further weaves trust in me. Exercise. Fear in decision making. Take some time to reflect on when you made a big decision and what the result was, both in your life and those around you, a year after the decision was made or longer. Allow yourself the following questions. How did the decision affect my life and those important to me? Did the decision help me feel more confident in future smaller or larger decisions? Did I regret the decision? Do I keep thinking, what if? What were my key fears before and during the decision-making process? Understanding your fears for this example, which could relate to other fears and incidents in your life, and may be common fears for you, could lead you into doing an emotional process on them, which could be useful. Think about the incident and feel into what the deepest fears behind your decision-making could be. Exercise. Primary fears. All of us have some or all of the following fears to different extents. Many of them are unconscious fears. Bringing them to your conscious mind will help you deal with them as opposed to going through your life automatically operating through them. The below list may be an initial helpful guide, but remember to focus on your specific fears. We often have variations on the below fears, and there are many more. This is just to get you started. Fear of dying alone, fear of making mistakes, fear of being alone, fear of death, fear of failure, fear of not having a meaningful life, fear of not making something of myself, fear of not being healthy and able-bodied, fear of mental illness, becoming insane, fear of rejection, fear of being rejected, fear of being empty or hollow, fear of starvation, fear of never being enough, fear of not being loved, fear of losing love, fear of losing connection, fear of losing critical, important connections, fear of loss, fear of being overwhelmed by emotion, fear of pain never going away, fear of chronic pain, fear of being ugly, fat, too thin, horrible to look at, fear of a partner not being healthy or able-bodied, fear of having to look after fear of having to look after a dependent, important person, fear of not being successful or having a successful life, fear of not achieving a purpose, fear of not achieving anything at all, fear of fear. Once you work out what your fears are generally, or for a particular issue, think about where that fear may first have come from. You may have already gotten flashes of incidences where that fear first emerged. Sit quietly and keeping your attention on your breath or on a part of the body that feels the heaviest. Ask yourself the following questions. When did I last feel this fear? And then, when did I first feel this fear? Feel into the essence of this fear. See if you can draw links between the fear you're feeling now and the fear and when the fear first came about. Does it have the same quality? Is it stronger or weaker? Can you feel the relationship between the first and the last times? Ask your fear what it needs from you. Does it need you to do something to feel less fearful? Does your fear need a resolution with you or someone else? Does your fear need a conversation with you? Ask your fear what it needs to feel less afraid and give that to your fear. It could be something you do internally or an external action. For example, your fear may want you to agree to consulting with it before making a decision about a particular subject. Or it may want you to slowly make a change by dealing with your past anger, hurt, or feelings of unworthiness. This could involve having a conversation with your father on the impact of an event made in your life, or you could imagine a conversation, speak it out loud or write it out, with a school teacher who treated you unfairly and tell them how their actions and words impacted your life. Imagine what they would say to you now. Is there anything you could do to resolve this in yourself now? Addressing your fears helps you make better decisions and helps you develop trust in yourself. If you're the kind of person who regrets a decision or keeps thinking, what if, then finding some of your deep emotional fears can help you move on. Boundaries. Also, look at your boundaries. Do you say yes when you want to say no? Do you feel guilty when you say no? Do you do things to please others or to be seen as a good friend, partner, employee, society member? Do you not call out someone who mistreats you? Do you completely adopt a philosophy idea without questioning it? Do you have sex when you don't want to? Do you do something against your values? Do you allow yourself to be distracted and accommodate another person's wants or needs and to get deeply defined in their problems? Or do you shy away from defining and communicating your emotional needs in relationships? When you do something that doesn't feel good to you, that is not in alignment with your values, cares, and concerns, you are betraying yourself. You are violating your own boundaries. To develop trust in yourself, you need to get clear about your boundaries and articulate them. Defining all the things you like doing and not doing is a very powerful tool in initial boundary formation. Make lists of what you like and don't like in friendships, relationships, work, sport, human interactions. Your preferences are your boundaries. Then breathe into your bravest self and start to articulate what you like, what you want to do rather than appeasing others. Use the communication skills in chapter 12 to help you to do this. There are also multiple options for people wanting to do different things. There are usually so many creative solutions that enable everyone to get what they want in any given situation. We're so often focused on the binary sides that we just don't see it. Remember, just because you say what you want doesn't mean others will lose. And it also doesn't mean you're a bad person. Everyone has unique preferences and you're allowed to like and do what you like. For further boundary exploration, review chapter 15, Brave Boundaries. It also can be simple. Developing trust in you can be as simple as doing something new every day or every week and realizing that the world will not collapse, that you will survive and perhaps feel even more alive or more empowered. Little steps can make a big difference. You may not be ready to give up your job or unhealthy relationship or start that new business yet. Doing new things each day, each and every week will help you gain the confidence in making larger decisions. Taking little risks and continuing to take risks will help you to develop trust in you and your decision making. Importantly, having a person or persons to follow up on your actions each week is super helpful. The benefit is threefold. For debriefing, important to integrate your new actions. For feedback, for inspiration to keep going. For refinement of your future steps, new things you want to create each week. Whether it is a friend, partner, therapist, or coach, reflecting back on your progress is a valuable incentive to keep going. A good coach or a therapist will also be able to help you uncover your emotional blocks that may inhibit you from taking certain actions as well, which is one of my personal favorite parts of being a coach. Investigating and uncovering these parts with people is my idea of a great time. Once you understand your emotional blocks, then you can make different choices and create more life-enhancing practices. Break it to make it. Developing trust in yourself is critical to creating a brave life. This process is made of the following 4 steps. A. Understand your emotional blocks to trust. B. Dive into the origins of your fears. This will bring you hope for change. C. Create healthy boundaries around your likes and dislikes. This will bring you more assurance in yourself. D. Take actionable steps each week to give you the certainty that you can meet your own needs and design the life that you want. That's the end of chapter 9 of Breathing Out Brave. I hope you enjoyed it. There's a lot of exercises in that chapter, so it's worth reflecting on again and reading through and spending some time working through those exercises. They're not quick exercises by any means. They're just they're definitely ones that you want to sit and think about, perhaps over a week or 2 as well. Yes, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to be back tomorrow to read out chapter 10, which is all about finding your brave gifts in life, which is a really good chapter. Again, a lot of exercises contained in that. You can find all the rest of the chapters, live recordings that I've made over the past 9 days, it will be, on my Facebook wall. So if you want to catch up on those previous live readings, please go ahead. Any questions, comments, very delighted to answer them, talk to you about it, run through some ideas. So please comment below. And thank you very much for listening, and have a beautiful evening, beautiful day, and continuing beautiful long weekend for those based in Christian-based countries. Thanks everyone, and I will see you tomorrow.